there, ref. That's he got the ball.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack and Dave here, and we're going to be asking the question of where will Romero be headed this summer? And also, do you want to keep Romero or maybe sell up now for a big fee to the Madrid clubs we know are very interested, Atletico Madrid as well as Real Madrid? But this is some of the recent news from some of the ITKs, one of them being Talk Sport, and the other one as well being Sky Sports. We'll start off with this one. In case you missed it, Cristian Romero is understood to be interested in exploring a move away from Spurs in the summer as he looks to play Champions League football. Atletico Madrid have been tracking Romero's progress closely and see him becoming one of the top center backs in the world and now want to sign the player this summer. And then as well, Tottenham defender Cristian Romero is open to the possibility of a move to Atletico Madrid. Romero is about to enter the final 2 years of his contract, making Spurs vulnerable to an offer with Atletico boss Diego Simeone, is a big admirer of his fellow Argentine ahead of this summer. First question is, Dave, simple. Do you want to keep Romero or sell this summer? I think I know your answer, but tell me why.
No, look, 100%. I want to keep Romero, Jack. We can't keep going down this route. Oh, if they want to leave, we got to sell them, because the reality is, players that usually want to leave Tottenham want to leave because they want to go and compete. They want to go and win trophies. My whole lifetime, the only era where our best players haven't wanted to leave was under Pochettino, when we were competing for trophies. Once we stopped, that's when some of them players wanted out and to move on elsewhere. I can understand it back in the day when we were playing at White Hart Lane and stuff like that, not as much revenue, and we're a club that's trying to be on the up. But since we broke into that top six, and we've made it from a top four to a top six because we broke there and we've been in and around there consistently. Now it's time to keep hold of our best players. We can't keep going down this route. Oh, we'll be better. It's be fine. The club will go on without them. Yeah, okay, the club's still going on without Harry Kane, but where are we? How many people kill for his goals now, his passes now, stuff like that? You go to Cristian Romero, once he goes, we have no player that can play out like him from the back. You have no player that can, in modern day football, that can challenge as hard as he does and gets away with it to a large degree. And the only reason why he wants to leave is because he wants to win trophies. Is that a bad thing? Does that mean he hates Tottenham Hotspur? He's had a massive falling out with everyone in and around the club? No, it doesn't. And that's a point you made Tuesday night on the debate show. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic point. If it was a case where he was disruptive, he was falling out with the manager and stuff like that, I'd say, okay. But the fact that his only reason for leaving is because he wants to go and progress, playing the highest honours possible and try and win the highest honours possible is not a bad thing. And I'm not being funny. But they're the players we should be looking to keep on to. When we've had the likes of Lo Celsos, people coming out with the apology form after one bad game. How many chances are they willing to give that guy, considering the shit performance he's put on the pitch? Brennan Johnson, look how many excuses are made for that guy. You know what I mean? But yet he shirks so much responsibility in terms of, running out of possession to try and stop moves and stuff like that. Won't do it. But all the excuses made for him, give him time, let him develop, blah, 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 blah. We have a history at Tottenham Hotspur of protecting our shit players and just saying to our good players that actually do want to go on and win trophies, go on, leave elsewhere. But then when they do leave and go on and win trophies, we all moan about the stat. We can't have our cake and eat it. At some point, you've got to say, no, we need to keep our best players and we need to build around them to push forward. If we want to compete with the likes of your Real Madrids in Europe, the likes of your Liverpools and your Cities and your Arsenals in the Premier League, you need a certain caliber of player to compete with them. And we have to try and keep our best players. I'm not being funny. Even the people that go, oh, but the contract's running down. Sell and take the money you can. We've got more diverse revenue streams than any other club across world football. We don't need the money. What we do need to do is harness that player's ambition and bring in the right players around it. The only reason why these players are walking away is because they don't rate the players that we've brought in to try and kick on. They don't see us bringing in better players to try and kick on. So they look at it and go, well, what am I staying here for? I'll go to Atletico, where they will go after some of the world's best players. I'll go to Madrid, where they will go after some of the world's best players. And the players that we're selling are ultimately going on to the best clubs in Europe and winning, matching their ambitions while we're sitting there going, what if? We sold Harry Kane. How many people are texting me now, ringing me now, going, do you know what, Dave? If there's a chance we could get Harry Kane back, I'd take it. I don't want to hear it. You've already made the mistake by being weak and just clearing the pathway for the club to sell it and make it so easy for them. At Spurs, we have to stop that as a fan base, and we have to start putting pressure on the ownership and saying, no, you keep this guy at all cost and you bring in players that he thinks can help compete and keep this guy happy. If we want to act like a big club, that's what the big clubs do. Even when the players' contracts are running down, they still sit there and try and bring in players to match that ambition to get them to sign on a dotted line. But at Tottenham, because we're so used to failure, we're so used to weakness, we just bowl over and saying, "Oh, give us the money, we'll reinvest it." What did we get out of Bale money? What did we get out of Kane money? I'm sick of it, Jack. I
Yeah.
said it when we were selling Kane. I don't trust the owners to reinvest that money properly. Now we're stuck here with an attacking manager after selling the world's best striker with one of the world's worst forward lines right now. That's that we didn't benefit from it. And
Yeah.
I don't want to do the same with Romero. We've got to keep him here. And we've got to keep him. It's that simple. You sell him, we're going to have a massive void at the back yet again. And we're going to have to try and wait for the next guy to come in and fill that. You keep him here. If not, and anyone that says, yeah, let Romero go, he doesn't want to be here, I don't want to hear you talk to me about wanting to win trophies because you don't. If you're willing to let our best players go, you don't want to win trophies. It's that simple.
I just feel like people have been mistaking ambition to be the very best they can be,
Mhm.
ambition to win trophies, ambition to be at the very highest level with wanting to leave. I think those things are actually two different things. A player that wants to have really, really high, sort of ambition to be playing with the very best of players, to be challenging for trophies every single season. I don't see what's wrong with that. That's clearly just someone who has their priorities straight
It's what we
when it
want as
comes to
fans,
their
though, right?
career. It's, they want to win things. What's wrong with that? And if they feel like the club that they're currently at, which they've given a few years to, isn't necessarily headed in that direction, I don't blame them for their head being turned. And I don't blame them for, having maybe doubts or seeds of doubt about whether this is the best place for them in terms of their career. I'm not expecting world class players at Tottenham Hotspur to be married to the club forever. I think we've taken advantage of the Canes and the Sons of the world, who I think have had a lot of deeper connections maybe with the club. And I think we've really benefited from that at the end of the day. But eventually, even Harry Kane felt like, at the very sort of last minute of his career, he felt like I just have to go at this point if I really want to win and be at the very highest level and be competing with the very, very best. And Romero, I'm not expecting to have, super strong heartstring type connections with Tottenham Hotspur. I think he moved to Tottenham Hotspur to go to the Premier League, to play at a very high level after, developing at Atalanta. And he's done very well here. I think he's having, of course, maybe a mixed season, with the injuries, as well as also some poor moments defensively. But I think we're quickly forgetting some of the amazing performances that Cristian Romero has had at this club, and also the fact that he has incredible ability when it comes to both in possession, but then also as a defender. Even just last season under Ange, I think he actually finished off the season almost stronger than even Mickey Van de Ven did, if I recall. I remember actually having more of an argument. I think Romero had a better year last year than even Mickey Van de Ven did. So this guy I really truly rate. And I just feel like we're mistaking a player prioritizing their career, their ambition with wanting to leave. I don't think those things are necessarily the same. If someone wants to leave the club, that can be for different reasons. That can be, oh, they feel like, it's not maybe the best place for them anymore. They might need to go back for family reasons, or perhaps, they just want to have more money, or various things that we've seen before with players. I don't think that's the case with Romero. I think it's quite simple for him. I think he wants to achieve the most that he can in a short window of time that you have, especially now that he's entering pretty much the prime of his career as a player. I think he's going to be turning 27, 28 very soon. And he's going to have to ask serious questions of, if I really want to be winning the most trophies, if I really want to be competing at the very, very highest level, is that going to be at Tottenham Hotspur in the next few years? And with the direction we've been headed, that's not really a clear answer at this moment in time. Whereas, with the Real Madrids, with the Atleticos, with plenty of these other clubs, that you would likely every year be competing with the very, very best. And he has teammates on this Argentina national team, right? He's got Rodrigo de Paul, Lautaro Martinez, of course, Lionel Messi, and plenty of guys that have achieved, a
Yeah.
lot playing for very, very high clubs. And he's at Tottenham Hotspur right now, which, is trying to get there, but he might be feeling like, look, these guys, they're winning trophies. They're competing in the Champions League. They're competing at the very highest level. And that clearly benefits them for their own national team, right? When the Argentina national team, they want to have their best players competing at the highest of level, competing with the best of clubs. And with Romero, you might be thinking, is Tottenham Hotspur headed in that direction right now? I'm not too sure. And again, I don't see that as like an offense to us as a football club. That's just, the reality of the situation, right? Is that Spurs technically right now are not headed in the direction that would be satisfying a world class player's ambition. And I think he has a world class ability. And I think he has the ambition and the career trajectory and the career ambitions of wanting to be that world class player. And is that going to be right now at Tottenham Hotspur? I think that situation's unclear to him. And even if I were in his shoes, I think that situation would be unclear. So again, I don't find any sort of offense in that. And I think that's maybe where people are perhaps getting a bit mistaken, Dave, is like
Mm,
they're seeing ambition, being competitive, wanting to win, wanting to be at the very, very top level, and they feel like maybe that's not necessarily the case anymore with the club that they're at.
mm.
And they're starting to get their head turned because of that. I don't really
Well,
see that as a grave offense. I just see that as a guy who has his priorities straight when
mm.
it comes to trying to be at the very, very best level.
Well, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's a very valid point that you make and that you bring to the argument. That there are a lot of people that are getting that conflated to a large degree. But you also got to put yourself in these players' shoes. And it was the same with some of the Tottenham players going into England camps in years gone by. You walk into these camps, they're surrounded by players that are winning all the trophies in their domestic, countries, winning stuff in Europe and stuff. And they're at that level because they're in the international team with them. They're sitting there training with them and everything else going, I belong at this level. But then you've got all the other players laughing at them and going, yeah, but mate, you ain't winning out and playing with Spurs. You want to win something, you got to come here. And this is the huge problem. We develop our players, but we never keep them around to see the benefits of them. We always sell them on. And the other clubs, the bigger clubs, they're the ones reaping the benefits of it. And we're sitting here
Yeah.
jealous, and at some point
It's
we have to change that. And the only way you change that is by keeping hold of your best players and building around it. And also at Tottenham, it was the same with Harry Kane, it's the same with Romero to a large degree. Because you've only really got a couple of players at that level, the minute they are off it for a game or two, they're almost disrespected to a large
yeah.
degree. We expect them to carry us every single game. But then, even when we were coming up short in finals, what did Harry Kane do in finals? Okay, but look at the teams we're up against. Look at the quality they have 1 to 11. Look at the quality we have 1 to 11. We're asking one guy to overcome a team of 11. And this is where it's important to keep bringing these players in so that these players look around and go, hang on, I'm staying around here. We can win something. This is exciting. That's
Yeah.
where we need to get to. But also with Romero, I think a large part of it does come where a lot of people, Jack, to a degree, are okay with him going because you do hear a lot of, he prefers country over club. I'm not being funny. That was always the case up until about 5 years ago. It was always the case. In my whole lifetime, up until about 5 years ago, it was an honor to represent your country. Everyone performed well at their club to try and get the call up for their country. It was an honor. People went injured, people went with broken leg. You hear people saying, my leg was hanging off, I'd still go. It was an honor. Now, just because that's changed over, I would argue, between England, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland to a large degree. Well, not Wales, I'll take that out. They're proud to represent their country. But you see players now turning down call ups for the nation leagues for some of the countries I've mentioned. Just because that's changed over here doesn't mean the rest of the world has changed, and it
Mhm.
doesn't mean this is right either. At the end of the day, Romero, it's always been an
And
honor to
yeah.
play for your country. It's always been country over club. But
Yeah.
now all of a sudden we want to flip that among because Romero's what old players used to be like. I'm not having it. But also, he's always fit for Argentina. Okay. But he's come out, he's made it no secret. The Tottenham medical team do not help him with his injuries.
And he doesn't
He's had
trust them.
injuries he has said he can come back from quicker from, but they're not helping him. And he has to, that's why when he goes out to Argentina, they're helping him and getting back on the football pitch. Again, start
Yeah.
looking internally at the club and not always blaming the people that are coming into this club trying to change the fortunes.
And if you're competing for a team like Argentina, you would think you would have to be at the highest level. You would think you would have to be playing for the best of clubs to be called up to that national team. And then right now, he's an automatic in that team because, again, he's a top player, in my opinion. But the way he might look at it is like, as it is with a lot of players, if they want to be called up to their national team and if they want to be a starter in their national team, they would think that they should be playing at the very highest level with the best of clubs. And again, with Spurs right now, it's not necessarily the case in the situation. And if he were to be
He's going
tempted
out
by
playing with
Real
Messi and
Madrid?
he's won a World Cup. What
Yeah.
wouldn't you prefer country over club right now?
But also, if he's at all being tempted by a move to a Real Madrid or Atletico, how's that any different from Luka Modric being tempted in the past? How's that any different
Yeah.
from Kyle Walker being tempted to Man City? How's that any different to Berbatov who went to Man United? How's that any different to Gareth Bale who went to Real Madrid? I mean, we love these players. We have tons of praise for these guys. So
Difference.
I'm confused how Romero gets all the hate for what previous world class players at Spurs have also done.
Mm. No, look, I fully get what you're saying when it comes to, how it's viewed from a fan's perspective. But the difference now is we built that stadium to keep these best players here,
True.
to
True.
pay their wages so that we could build around these guys. You know, no one wanted to keep selling our best players. But since we moved in here, it seems to be a repetitive pattern. But that
Yeah.
becomes because we're not out there trying to sign players to help kick these guys forward. We bring them in here, they make a name for themselves, and all of a sudden we go, right, now you're the leader. Now it's up to you to bring through the next crop of 18, 19-year-olds and get them to follow your way. And it's like, but hang on. I came here because I wanted to win trophies and go and compete. And now we're not doing that. And now you're just asking me to bring through the next wave and be that leader. It's like, no, bring in players for me to help me go and win trophies. You're absolutely spot on. You know, a lot of these players, when they leave, they speak of the affection they have for Tottenham. They speak of actually the affection that they have for the fan base because of how they were treated when they were here, the love and adulation that they get.
Yeah.
And they always say, I wanted to win something at Tottenham, but the ambition is never there. And we shouldn't be hating our players if they want to leave and go on and you know,
Yeah.
if they were taking side steps, I could understand. But the fact that they're going to your Bayern Munich, your Real Madrids, it's like, well, you would as well if you were in that choice, to be quite frank, and you
And
wanted
and
to
you
go and
and you
win
rated
things.
yourself that highly, right? And you felt like,
Exactly.
you were that good enough to be at that
The
level. I
question
mean,
is how do we stop that being the law and actually be that club where we go and compete ourselves? So the hatred should
100%.
actually be more towards the football club, and the inquest should be more towards the football club. It's like, okay, what were the circumstances why this guy wanted to leave? Okay, ambition. Okay, then you go to the football club. Well, why weren't we willing to meet his ambition? That's what needs to happen rather than just take it out on the player. You're spot on.
Oh, everybody let us know, please. Do you disagree with us? Do you think Romero isn't as good as we're making him out to be? Do you want to sell up this summer? You probably could get a big hefty fee for him from these two clubs in Madrid. Or do you kind of lean on our end where you feel like, he's just a guy that wants to be at the very best level and, just wants to see Spurs match those ambitions? Let us know in the comments below, please. Smash the like button as well. Like I said before in a previous video, regular business, regular schedule, back coming Monday. Join us for a fan show, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.